My name is Liam. If it's your first time here, this is kind of a new series of live streams where we start to, where's my camera? Ah, it's here. Where we start to like pick apart our bilingual brains and try to understand what is going on when we are learning a language and when we're trying to use a language. So before we get started, I want to read you something from this book that I'm working on, which is it's gonna be kind of like a Bible. That's my intention. So it's gonna be full of my experiences, some useful and practical things that you can do when you're learning a language. But then also, of course, vocabulary that you can use. Hey Brooke, hvad så? Hvordan går det? Velkommen. Okay, so I'm going to read to you this quote. And it says, "It's undeniable that using a foreign language is a daunting feat, only challenged by the brave," like Vikings. "For anyone desiring to challenge and improve their self-confidence at the risk of putting their own personality on the back burner for a while, learning a language is the most exquisite way to do it. Your personality naturally gets subdued in the fight against tongue-tied verbalizations. That's okay. Eventually, you'll find your way and a brand new side of you will emerge, enriching your life like never before." Wow, it's very, it's very philosophical, and I don't want to be too philosophical today. I want to be a little bit more practical, but this is kind of just getting to the point where we sometimes feel, for many people at least, it's not like this for everybody, but some people can feel, and I've experienced it, that it's like an uphill battle when you are trying to learn a language. And I remember these tongue-tied days where I used to sort of encroach in perspiring fear of having to have a conversation with somebody, like hiding in the house, like, I can't go outside. I don't know what will happen. Maybe I say something stupid. What will they think? Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I remember these days. You know, I haven't always been the fluent speaker of Danish that I am today. So I also have had these anxieties. And what I used to do very practically, what I found really worked for me was I used to plan what I was going to do. So certain situations, for example, like calling the tax office or the restaurant or the bank, things like that. So basically I would use Google and plan out what I was going to say. I would pretty much write it myself and then put it in Google and check to see if there's anything that looked a bit spazzy. And then I would make the call. So I have to call the bank. Okay, I know exactly what I'm going to say and I'm going to read it exactly like that. And I started to realize that it worked. It really worked. Like I was calling people, reciting my pre-written script, and then they were replying to me. And I was like, oh, fucking amazing, it works. And from there, it was just a case of like saying, yeah, no, in Danish, ja, nej, det tror jeg ikke, blah, 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 blah. So I really used that quite a bit. And by doing it, I very quickly found that I didn't have to do it for very long, because these situations are very normal, everyday situations that come up a lot. So I quickly was able to put it aside, and then that sort of that fear has now been put to the side. So it was just a really useful tool that I used, and I remember some really bad times. Like I remember this blizzardous day in September where I had a call from the bank. I think I'd pretty much just moved to Denmark, and this like tantalizing Danish voice picked up the phone, said some shit to me, I don't remember what, and my heart started pounding. I don't know what she's saying, what am I going to do? I feel like stamping on my phone. So I had this like adrenaline fueled moment where I felt myself like drowning, like, oh, I felt like this big. And so there was some silence. She asked me a question and there's a silence, and like I'm waiting and she's waiting and I can hear her breathing through the phone and it was awful. And I remember asking her to repeat the question, and then I started freaking out, and I like stumbled out into the street, like in this drunken state of not knowing what to do, drunken state of misunderstanding, asking her to repeat it until I took a final breath and was like, lowered the phone from my ear and hung up. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? I just completely choked, and I was speechless, and I didn't know what to do. And I had this like ringing in my ears, and I felt so stupid. Like, it was awful. But I knew after that moment that I had to overcome it. I could not be in those situations again. I hated it. So I made it my mission to start call, because when I had these moments where I had to call somebody, I would maybe ask someone else to do it for me, or try to get help and put the responsibility on someone else. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to have to take this responsibility and find ways to do it. So I started calling, I started ordering coffee in cafes. I started ordering pizzas over the phone, reserving hotel rooms, whatever it was, calling the bank or whatever. Because I've noticed that some people I know, students of Danish that have a pretty high level, they still go to the cafe and they order in English. And I understand that it's really stressful, these situations. Or I assume that's what's going through their mind, that it's easy. But it's a really good opportunity because you only have to do it 2 or 3 times and then you know it. Because in a cafe scenario, there's not so many things that get said. The same in the supermarket. If you've been in Denmark, you know that they say, hi, god day, hey, god day. They tell you how much it is. They say, hey, vil du have bånd med? Vil du have en kvittering? You want a receipt? You say, nah, and then you go. And that's pretty much it. Like, you don't really have to say much. So in avoiding it, you're really just giving yourself some stress. So yes, you can use this planning also when you go to the supermarket, to the cafe. Think ahead of time, what exactly do I need to say, what I want to do. Because if you've checked it, you know what you're saying is correct, then yeah, plain sailing from there. So this is kind of like the first rung on the ladder to improvisation and fluency. Start by planning, and then slowly the planning goes away. You start to relax because you've had some experiences. And I also see this also in classes also. The classes I have with some students, they very quickly revert back to English when they start to feel uneasy. And I also have the same experience when I was learning Polish. Of course, if you don't have the vocabulary, you cannot do anything about it. Like, you need to go to English. But I think having good quality questions in your language backpack, if you like, is a good way. Like, things like, hvordan siger man? How do you say this? Or, hvad hedder bla bla på dansk? Kan du gentage? Gider du at gentage? Hvad siger du? Hvad sagde du lige? Det fik jeg ikke. These kind of questions are really, really, really important. Maybe overlooked, I don't know. But it's really, I guess, about staying relaxed and having the confidence to ask these good quality questions when you get confused and not getting overwhelmed by it. My Spanish-speaking friends, for example, speak very quickly, and many people are not like language conscious if they don't themselves speak other languages. So they just speak super. You can plan before you call the bank in English. Maybe you have to. Brooke says she has to plan to use her own native language, so you're fucked if you're using a foreign language. No, you're not. You're not really. So, what was I saying? My Spanish-speaking friends, they speak super, super quick. So I am just constantly saying, ¿qué? Like, what did you say? I didn't get that. Can you repeat it? I'm just constantly, my face is like this all day in Argentina. Like, yeah. But I have these good quality questions of saying, what did you say? And what is that? And what does that mean? I'm just constantly asking, like, what does that mean? Like, the amount of times I say in a day is incredible. Another thing is that people speak very, very quickly, so we feel like we also have to speak very, very quickly and match their pace. But we don't. We need to slow down. And the thing is that the other person will probably mirror you if you slow down and speak more slowly. Hopefully, at least, you can feel yourself slowing down as I slow down. And you can think also in your native language is really interesting because in your native language you don't always know what to say. I always love to think about these things where how many times does it happen in your own language where you have to stop and you're like, fuck, what was that word? And sometimes you don't even remember it. You're like, it's on the tip of my tongue. What the fuck is it? What's that word? It happens to me on a daily basis. Even when I'm giving classes in Danish, somebody will say to me, how do you say this in Danish? And I go, wait, I know how to say this. And then I have that natural instinct of, what's going on in my brain? But I've sort of got past it now because it happens to me so many times that I've sort of relaxed and accepted that sometimes your brain would just say, not today. That word has been taken from you and replaced with this image of some French fries flashing in your brain. I don't know. So slow down and take your time and remember that you can't always remember everything, and it's really useful to have these questions that you can ask. And also I guess we have to think, why are we learning this language? Are we learning it because we want to be perfect, we want to speak with this romantic eloquence, or do we just really want to be able to order some fries when we go to Max Burger, or want to be able to have somewhat of a conversation? Of course we want to be fluid, but then that takes us into what is fluency for you. And I'm interested to hear anyone that's watching what fluency is for you, because I hear many different answers. I think it's really interesting, because I guess we'll never feel the same way we do when we speak our native language, and that's maybe what we expect, that we feel so comfortable and relaxed. But although I'm fluent in Danish, it still has a different tinge, if that's the right word, a different flavor or hue over the language, that even I hit barriers sometimes. Even I encounter these moments of tongue-tied recitals where I just cannot get my words out. And it also happens to me in English a lot, my own language. So yeah, it's completely normal. But yeah, what is fluency for you? Let me know. Fluency, Brooke says fluency to me is not thinking the sentence out first in my native language or translating it in my head when I'm reading. Yeah, it makes sense. You don't have to think so much. Yeah, I think it makes sense. For me, I'm not so focused on the fact that I have to think, because again, think about your own language. Do you have to think in your own language? Sometimes. Of course, you can speak unconsciously, you can just blah, 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 blah. But sometimes you have to stop and, what was that word again? What do I want to say? I need to reword my sentence. Yeah, so you could argue that you also have to think sometimes. I understand what you're saying, like you want to just be able to blurt out the words, and that is a level of fluency for sure. For me personally, it's more about the communication and how much you can communicate. Can you get your message across? Can you be understood? Even at times where you cannot find the words, even when you don't know what something is called, you don't know how to say it, you can still communicate that you don't know what it's called or that you can't find the word, and you can continue the conversation. It's not that your brain just implodes on itself and the conversation is over. So, yeah, you may never feel Shakespearean in a foreign language. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Sometimes it feels like that poetic part of your brain just got ripped out and you're just stuck with these jagged sentences that you can use. But yeah, I feel like it's more important to have focus on, can you communicate? Not the perfection, not the fact that you are saying everything perfectly, that you're not thinking. Sometimes you have to think, but rather that you can stay in that language. I think that's the key. Can you stay in that language without coming back to your native language? If you can do that and continue conversing with somebody, then doesn't that kind of mean you're fluent? Let me know. What do you think? Maybe I'm wrong. But that's kind of my thoughts. So to summarize, I kind of talked about planning out when you're at the beginning of your journey. Plan out what you want to say and push yourself to go into these situations where you feel this anxiety of, fuck, I don't know what to do, I don't want to do it. Or when you have to pick up the phone, you will slowly start to realize that you can start to improvise. Make sure you have some good quality questions, which maybe I can make a video with some in Danish where you're asking, hvad hedder bla bla, hvad sagde du, og hvordan siger man, og hvad er det? Hvad er det? Det er okay. It's okay to ask somebody like, what's that? Like, it happens to me all the time. Again, in your native language, it happens. Sometimes I talk to my friends and they say something and I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it. And if you're lucky, you won't have a friend that's like, oh, you know those people that like when you haven't seen a TV series and they're like, oh, I can't believe you haven't seen that. What's wrong with you, man? I hate that so much because like, well, I haven't seen it. Same with a concept, a word. I don't know it. That's the reality. What? Tell me about it. I want to know about it. It happened to me recently. Somebody asked me about the Falkland Islands, because I'm here in Argentina, maybe you know a bit about it. I didn't really know anything about it, to be honest. They asked me, what's your opinion on the Falkland Islands? I don't have an opinion. It's like, and in that moment, the person I was talking to was like, what? Like really like surprised. And I also felt a bit stupid. And then after I was like, okay, maybe I should research a bit and learn a bit about it. Because I'm also like that, you know. I go into research mode and like to learn new things. So I did learn about it. Now I know a bit about it. But in relation to your language, that's, again, I think we talked about this last time, where you can find your holes in your language and use it to your advantage when somebody asks you a question like this. Oh, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Okay, I learned for free from a friend, from talking in a class. Whatever it is, it's important not to let your ego get in the way. Well, I think that was it. If you have any thoughts on this planning idea, this improvisation, or fluency, you can follow the link in the description and get involved on the forum on my website, DanishTube.com. You will see an amazing GIF and this topic, planning, improvisation, and fluency. Let me know what you think if you have any ideas. Otherwise, jeg siger bare, now my languages are getting mixed. Tak for i dag, venner. Tak fordi I så med, og vi ses snart. Rigtig, rigtig snart. Hej hej. Peace out, Brooke. Tak for i dag. Hej.